So now we are going to celebrate Armed Forces Day. So we are here today to honor and praise the work of all these young men and women who are in, I don't know, I'm getting emotional, the military service at home and overseas. I'm just a very patriotic person. I don't know why. I mean, I guess my parents made me this way, but it really is. And these kids are so courageous and brave, and their service is so vital to the security of our nation and the ultimate goal of peace. So on behalf of myself and the rest of the council, we are just so happy to be able to celebrate you all for the second time in Allendale. And we really plan on carrying this forward. I've been working with military moms, Jen Winters and Joanne Hart, and military dads, Joe Hart and Dan Winters, and I'd really like to thank them all for their help in all of this, and also thank our staff for the wonderful decorations that you guys put out here to make this whole council chambers look patriotic. So thank you for that. So to start off this celebration, I'm gonna read a proclamation in honor of Armed Forces Appreciation Day. So whereas the Armed Forces of the United States serve as a unified team at home and across the seas in pursuit of a durable peace, and whereas our military members do not swear allegiance to an individual, group, or political party, their oath is to the United States Constitution. By bringing together people from different races, religions, and sexual orientations and melding them into a cohesive fighting force, our military embodies the promise of our democratic experiment. And whereas the sacrifices that such members of the United States Armed Forces and the family members that support them have preserved the liberties that have enriched this nation, making it unique in a world community. And whereas we are here today to celebrate Armed Forces Day for those American men and women in uniform who serve selflessly to preserve democracy and freedom at home and around the world in times of war and peace. And whereas since 1949, the third Saturday of May has been proclaimed Armed Forces Day by the President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief, calling all Americans to remember those who gave their lives in defense of freedom and to honor the men and women of all the armed services who have served and are now serving our country, together with their families. Now, therefore, we, the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Allendale, do hereby recognize Armed Forces Appreciation Day as a special day to show appreciation for our military and encourage all citizens to display flags, ribbons, and personal messages to show their gratitude throughout the year. So thank you for all of that. So we have two speakers today. The first one is Tim Turner, and let me get mine. So Tim is an Allendale resident, and Tim was enlisted in the U.S. Army from 1983 to 1985. He was U.S. Army commissioned officer from 87 to 1990, combat veteran in the Panama invasion from 1989 to 1990, and Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. He also attended the following military schools: Airborne, Ranger, Pathfinder, and he was assigned to the 2nd Infantry Division, Korea Paratrooper, and Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Tim was an agent in the FBI for over 20 years. He was principal forearms instructor responsible for firearms, defensive tactics, and tactical training. He has trained SWAT teams, military law enforcement, as well as civilians. Always in service, he recently provided free training to Allendale residents and businesses in an active shooter preparedness seminar. So Tim, if you wouldn't mind coming on up and saying a few words.
Thank you, Amy, and the town council for having me come here tonight. It's a privilege and an honor for me to recognize those brave men and women who have served, will serve in the future, and are currently serving. It is really an honor to see that the town is coming out to show support for those brave warriors that are overseas and stateside, trying to preserve democracy and freedom for all of us. So I'll start out tonight. Common theme throughout the whole night, a couple comments that I'll make is about freedom and it's about community, right? Both of which we're enjoying. So I'll start off by saying freedom requires a level of sacrifice the protected will never know. And I can tell you, the brave men and women who have served, they know what it takes. They know what it's about. And it can get bloody in combat, and it is also can become very, very difficult even in peacetime upon deployments and things like that. Not only do they sacrifice, but their families sacrifice and their loved ones sacrifice. So to show them the support from the communities that they come from is truly inspirational and motivational for them. I only know that because I had the privilege of not only serving as an enlisted soldier, but leading our troops and in further leading them in combat, right? Where the mission is to really stop really, really bad people from doing really bad things to really good people. That's really what it comes down to increase the survivability of our most precious asset, which is our people and our soldiers. That is what it is all about. They understand that sacrifice, and it's great to know that they know that there's support for them from all the towns that they come from. Right. So freedom is something that's enjoyed by all, but it is earned by few. Those are the few who are willing to stand up and defend this great country and continue for all of us to enjoy the freedoms that they're willing to sacrifice everything for. We saw that on Memorial Day, people who gave the ultimate sacrifice. So it is super critical that ABUs, the mayor and the town council do events like this, because young soldiers overseas, it means the world to them, because they want to get back to where they came from, and they want to make sure it's the same place they left. So it is truly inspirational to see everybody here tonight. I will tell you, I started my career, as Amy says, as an enlisted soldier. And some of the unique things I saw about community was that my first assignment was in the 2nd Infantry Division many years ago when the Olympics were going on. And I saw the difference between the North Koreans and the South Koreans. And the South Koreans were so happy to have us there because they enjoyed their freedom. They enjoyed the democracy they had in Uijeongbu, in Busan, in Tongducheon. That's their Allendale. That's their Waldwick. That's their Ramsey. That is what these brave men and women who are serving now, will serve, and have served in the past understand. I went to Fort Bragg and had the tremendous responsibility of leading soldiers in combat as far as when we invaded Panama to unseat the dictator Manuel Noriega from the atrocities he was committing on his own people. And I saw firsthand the people of Panama City, the people of Rio Hato, the people of Tocumen, very similar to the people of Malo, the people of Ramsey, and the people of Hohokus, and the people of Allendale. They wanted their freedom. And who was there to give them that freedom and protect them from the tyranny was our brave men and women who continue to do it, have done it historically, and will always do it in the future and now as we stand here. When I left the military and I became a police officer right here in Allendale. So I understand the community. And I give a great shout out to Mike and all the members of our police department that I was proud to be a part of, to all of our emergency responders, our fire department, our ambulance corps, because that's why people can sleep at night, because they're out there doing what they need to do to keep you safe. And so big shout out to them as well. Once I left the police department, I went to the FBI. I was fortunate enough to get in and spent 27 years there. And I will tell you that the 9 years on our tactical team, I deployed to places where I've seen really, really violent things, where what mankind can do to other mankind is incredible. And so I deployed to Africa during the bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. And I saw those people just screaming for support, for help. And who was there to supply it? The government, the brave men and women of the FBI, embedded with the brave men and women of the military. And I saw that firsthand. They were victims. Then we deployed, which will mean a lot to many people here on Armed Forces Day, which we're celebrating. I deployed to Yemen for the bombing of the USS Cole. 17 soldiers killed that day. And we were destined to embed with the Marine fast units because we're going to bring them to justice. We're going to make retribution for those soldiers that were lost. I think what we all remember is the sacrifice, not only in combat, but in peacetime. They understand that. 9/11 happened. I was down there that morning. I saw people jump from the buildings in the smoke and the soot and trying to get people out into a safe area. That day, we lost 2 squad members and many, many police officers where I was on violent fugitive task force with were killed in that rubble. And we maintained that investigation and worked that pile for months and months and months. And we are still losing brave Americans to 9/11 related illness, almost 23 years later. Those are the brave men and women. That's the American spirit that places like Allendale showing their support of community means a tremendous amount, because that is why they do what they do. They do it for the soldiers, sailor, Marine, Coast Guard, Airmen, Guardians from Space Force. They do it for the person to their left and right, but they also do it for you, the community, that they so want to have the same freedoms and democracy that they enjoyed when they were here. So kudos again to all of you for being here. I will tell you that was what motivated a lot of Americans to enlist when 9/11 happened. I deployed as an FBI SWAT guy embedded with the Naval Special Warfare Unit. And we went up along the Pakistani border and we targeted high value targets. And our goal was we're never going to allow this to happen on our shores again. So all of a sudden the fight was here. When the embassies blew up in Tanzania and Kenya, Osama bin Laden was just a name. And then the coal happened. And then the towers broke. And that's where you saw the heart and resolve of Americans to go forth. People enlisting, people wanting to serve and defend this great country. So I deployed. We lost 8 brave soldiers in my deployment from my unit. They came from places just like Allendale, just like Walden, just like Ramsey, just like Cohogas. To know that this group supports them is tremendously important. It is what hardens their resolve to continue to do what they do, what they've always done, what they do now, and what they will continue to do in the future. So I would close with the same comments I opened with, that freedom requires a level of sacrifice the protected will never know. But everyone here knows. That's why you're sitting here. So I truly appreciate what the mayor and council did tonight. I truly appreciate all you folks for coming here. I also said, not only about community, but freedom, enjoyed by all, but it is earned by few. I am proud and privileged to come here tonight and represent those few. Those few that are part of the noblest profession in the world. So on behalf of my family and I thank them for their sacrifice, and I thank them for their service. God bless them, God watch over them, and God bless America. Thank you, guys.
That was amazing. Thanks, Tim. Next, we have Tommy Hart. Lieutenant Thomas Hart, call sign Boppet, currently serves as a United States Navy helicopter pilot based in San Diego, California. He received his commission through the Navy ROTC program at the University of Notre Dame and completed flight school at Naval Air Station Whiting Field in Milton, Florida. He is currently a member of Helicopter Maritime Strike Squadron 71 at Naval Air Station North Island, serving as a division officer and flying the MH-60R Romeo Seahawk, the Navy's primary anti-submarine and anti-surface warfare helicopter. The Raptors of HSM-71 will deploy on board the Nimitz-class aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln in support of the Carrier Strikes Group's Western Pacific deployment this summer, conducting strategic deterrence and freedom of navigation operations. Tommy, come on up.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Tommy Hart. First of all, I'd like to start with saying thank you for the privilege of getting to speak in front of you all. And I'm also honored and humbled to follow Mr. LeTurner. Growing up in Allendale, Mr. LeTurner's career was something that I'd heard of, and ultimately was a factor that inspired me growing up to join the service. So humbled to speak after him tonight. To the town council, again, thank you for having me out here today. I would like to let you guys know that what you do, your service in advancing the support of service members, veterans, and their families in Allendale does not go unappreciated. Any note or any message that a soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine gets from their hometown means a lot. If it's someone that's overseas, deployed, or just living far from home, getting that message from home really brings you back to why you're serving and what you do to protect the American way of life and the way of life that we know so well in Allendale, New Jersey. With that, tonight I'm here to talk about challenge coins. I've heard about a Allendale challenge coin that is in the works. So in the U.S. military, the origin myth of the challenge coin comes from a story about a World War I pilot who was shot down behind enemy lines in Germany. And his only worldly possession was a medallion, bronze medallion with his squadron's insignia on it. So he's captured by the Germans. He's held behind enemy lines, and ultimately he escapes, returns to the French lines, and they challenge him. They question his identity. They say, "Who are you? You're a German spy." And the only way he verifies his identity is with a challenge coin bearing a squadron's insignia. With that, that saves his life, ultimately proving he is who he claims he is. Today, military commands often create challenge coins with their unit insignia and their virtues, what they stand for, maybe a mission-specific piece of equipment that is important to them. And these coins are awarded to individuals as a token of individual achievement or an award at the end of a tour for an individual. The coins are also generally collected and then traded between people to as a form of currency. Yeah, on a ship you can have challenge coins traded for patches, traded for anything really. So there are certain rules that correspond to having a challenge coin. It's sort of a privilege. It's an honor to have, and I'll lay those out for you so everyone is on the same page. So modern day challenge is initiated by someone who's in possession of a coin by raising the coin up and commencing a coin check against someone who is known to also possess a challenge coin. This is often done in a bar. So the challenger produces the coin, holds it up, and executes this coin check to verify that someone else that they know is in possession of a coin has it on their person. If the individual that is challenged does not present the coin, they owe the challenger a drink. And if the individual that is challenged does present the coin, then the challenger owes them a drink. So once you receive a challenge coin, always carry it on you, or at least just have it on you at the AB&J. My personal collection of coins is somewhat limited, but I can tell you that at least in naval aviation, having cool squadron gear is very, very important. It's a very high priority. So with that, on board the Lincoln on this last short underway, I managed to scrape together some HSM 71 and USS Abraham Lincoln challenge coins that I would like to present to the council today as a thanks for everything they do for U.S. service members, families, and veterans, as we've talked about tonight. So thank you.
Actually, I'd like to present these certificates of commendation to Tommy and to Tim. All right, so next I'd like to call up Joe Hart, Dan, and Jen Winters to come up in front to pass out some more certificates.
Can everybody hear me? Do I need the microphone? Yeah. All right, I do. All right, guys, just wanted to welcome you all here. We'll make this really quick. But last year, the Winters and Amy and myself, we wanted to figure out a way to just recognize the people in our community that are serving. And there are lots of them. And you don't realize who's serving and who they are. So I encourage you to look at that board. There are active, both active Navy, Marine, Army. There's 2 retired armed services people here, Kevin Henry and Kevin Brennan. Edward Brennan, excuse me. So thank you for those of you that gave me those photos. It's just a reminder of how people serve.
And Kevin's right there. This has Purple Heart.
Yes. Kevin Henry is a Purple Heart recipient. He's an Allendale resident. 2
Purple Heart.
Okay. We actually have our own Allendale challenge coins. Thanks, Tommy. I'd be able to drink with these, right? So the other thing that we want to present to everyone active in every military family is this sticker to put on your car for Allendale military families. And those, some of you who are new to our organization, not even an organization, but that we discovered you and discovered each other, we have some Blue Star flags. And I'm just going to read a little bit about what a Blue Star flag is if I had my notes together properly. You can see one right here, red with a white border and a blue star. And the service flag, also known as the Blue Star flag, is an official banner authorized by the Department of Defense for families who have members serving in the United States Armed Forces. The service flag's origins date back more than a century. During World War I, with a white field, red border, and one blue star representing each family member in service, the blue star is a powerful patriotic symbol. According to the Department of Defense, families of service members have the option of displaying a flag in a window for the duration of the conflict involved in the United States. One of the things I found out just today, is really interesting, is if you look over there, there's a blue star flag with 7 names on it. So there was an Allendale family, and all 7 of their children served in World War II. So before we break for a little repast, which you're all welcome to, a reception in the next room, take a look at that, because it's just really spectacular. To think that 7 people from one family really served. That's just an amazing thing. So what we're going to do now is the people that we recently found here in town that are serving, I'm going to call them up by name, and then I'm going to go through everyone that basically is served, recently served, is in reserves, is active, is National Guard. So just bear with us. So is Ensign John Keogh's family here? I don't think they can make it. I'd like to call up right now to represent U.S. Sergeant Army Kyle Davidson, who is married to Sarah Durso, an Allendale resident. Is Patty here to accept?
Is that Patty? Yeah.
Next, Joan Colleton Dallow. She's an Allendale resident. She's a major in the U.S. Army. She is the wife of Allendale resident John Dallow and the daughter-in-law of Gina and John Dallow of Allendale. So please come up. Next, we have the representatives of Israel Serby. Israel Serby, U.S. Army Sergeant, is married to Emily Tatosian. Here to accept his flag are the Chuck and Carol Tatosian. Got everybody. So now some of you who we recognized last year, we just like you to come up. Some of them you haven't. Yeah, he's not here. Oh, so we have actually a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves who couldn't be here tonight, Adam Gray, and nor could John Keogh. So what I'd like to do now is I'm just going to call the names of those that are serving. If you're here, please come up and accept your sticker and your medal. Captain John Brady, Jack Brady, U.S. Marine Corps. I don't think he's here. Claire Shea, the family of Claire Shea, she's serving. Second Lieutenant Rachel Carey, U.S. Army. Please come forward. I'd like to correct that. Rachel Carey just made first lieutenant. First Lieutenant Dan Mecca, U.S. Air Force, represented by his mom and dad, Allendale residents. Okay, we have another live person here. I'm very happy to award Cadet Owen Roy, who's currently at West Point. Please come forward. Although they're not here, First Lieutenant Patrick Shea, the Shays of Allendale have 3 people currently serving in the U.S. Army. Lieutenant Tommy Hart, please come up here and accept your down. Yeah, let's go on the rest here. The family of First Sergeant Tom Anderson, please come forward. Okay, next, standing with me today are the parents of Second Lieutenant Billy Winters, U.S. Army. Yeah. In addition, why isn't it right next to you? First Lieutenant Edward Winters as well. So the Winters have 2 currently serving, 1 Marine, 1 Army officer. First Sergeant U.S. Army Reservist Eric Narvaez from Allendale, please come forward. The family of First Lieutenant Chris Stock. Is any of the Stocks here today? No. Okay. Cadet Ryan Monagle, West Point. Is his family here today? No. Okay. Corporal Kyle Deering, U.S. Marine Corps. Is his family with us today? Yes. Could I have Kevin Henry come forward, please? Kevin is retired U.S. Army, 2 Purple Hearts. Congratulations.
You know, Mayor, Council, this means so much to me. It wasn't always like this in America. When I returned from Vietnam in December 1967 on the Braniff jet that I was flying on, the stewardesses went around and suggested that we get out of our military uniforms because there was demonstrators waiting for us at the San Francisco airport. Luckily, the Army had the jet pull over to a darkened area. Buses came and took us to the Oakland Army Terminal, where about 24 hours later, I got my discharge. I flew to New York, and I got into Kennedy Airport at maybe 1 in the morning, and I was looking for a cab. I got discharged with $275, and I wanted to find the cheapest cab to Yonkers. So I found a cabbie, and he said, "I'll take you to Yonkers, but I need one more fare going your way, and that'll be enough for me to go home with enough money for the night for my family." He said, "Do you mind waiting?" I said, "No, I've been waiting a whole year for this." So he comes to me a few minutes later. I'm sitting in the back seat of his cab, and he opens the door. He said, "I found a good-looking girl going to the west side of Manhattan. Maybe you'll get a date." And I said, "I don't want a date. I'm crazy in the head. I want to go home to bed. I've been awake for 3 days." He opens the door. She looks in and she says, "I'm not riding in a cab with a man in a military uniform." So I said, "This is my cab. Get your own cab." The cabbie said, "No, this is my cab. And if you can ignore her, if you can ignore each other, I'll make enough money for the night. Can you ignore her?" I said, "Yes." And without him saying a word to her, she said, "I'll have no problem ignoring him." That was my welcome home. So this night, it means so much to me for you to do this. America has changed, and it changed with the first Gulf War. When the veterans came home in, I guess it was around 93, there was so much guilt over the way Vietnam veterans were treated that those veterans were welcomed home with parades and all, and I was one of them welcomed. And I lived near Fort Dix for about 10 years. And whenever I see guys or girls from Fort Dix, I would buy them lunch or dinner or whatever. So I'm home and I love you all. Thank you so much.
Someone else I'd like to recognize here who I know is not here is Lieutenant Michael Sapio. He was a former Allendale resident with his family. I'm not sure where he was serving. Actually, could we call up Tim LaTurner to receive a challenge coin, please? All right, I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much for being here. On the table inside is a sign-up sheet. If you could, your service person's name and email, because we want to kind of tie them in and create a little database so people know where each other are. And actually, I want Dan to share a story about his son and why that's important, where the kids that are currently serving know where each other are in Allendale. So take it away. Story.
And apologies to those who heard this last year, but some of you are new. So my oldest is a infantry officer in the Marine Corps. He was deployed to Okinawa, and he was in the chow hall, and he sits down and he's talking to somebody that he hadn't met before. It's an artillery officer, and they're talking about where they came from. And Edward says, "Oh, I'm from New Jersey." And he says, "Oh, I have family in New Jersey, and we started there. My grandfather still lives there." He goes, "Where?" Edward's like, "Oh, North Jersey." And he said, "Well, where?" And he's like, "Well, you probably haven't heard it, but it's a really small town. It's near Ramsey." And he goes, "Where?" And he says, "Well, Allendale." And he says, "No way. My grandfather still lives in Allendale." And Edward says, "Where?" He goes, "Wilton Drive." And Edward says, "No way. I live on the bottom of Wilton Drive." And he says, "My grandfather lives on the top." So we started off talking about community. And, you know, the community of Allendale kind of travels almost anywhere you go. So there was Allendale in the middle of Okinawa. So we'd like to make sure that these service members, when they're traveling around, they have a way to contact people and know that there might be somebody from Allendale sitting next to them at the chow hall.
And one last thing, all of you are invited for a reception after this. So thank you for coming out. We're going to try to do, if we can, in the next 3 months,
Down in Patterson, there's a military assistance food pantry. There's a whole bunch of veterans that need our assistance, food security, getting their life back on track. And we went, Yasmin and myself went Yasmin is a fellow Rotarian, and she was our treasurer this year. So we went down to this food pantry, and it was stocked to the gills, but it was in a tiny room. And the gal who coordinated told us that 2 weeks prior, there was no food in there. So when we do this happy hour, we're going to do it as a get together, make it social. We'll do it at the Allendale Bar and Grill, bring 2 bags of food, and then whoever wants to come down to the pantry with us, it's a great experience. So thank you. I'll leave you with that. Council, thank you for having us tonight. And let's see everybody inside.
So, we have to join the meeting in a moment. So thank you both for really helping out and making this all come to fruition. You know, we started this as an event to honor everybody, but really now it's going to be a community. It's a community of support for the kids as well as the parents. So that's why we want to really keep everybody together. And speaking of the AB&G, they're the ones, they donated the sandwiches that are next door. So we're going to have some celebration.